Megan Ireland, and I'm an Associate Director with Achieving the Dream, and we are thrilled to welcome you all to the second webinar that is the second of two grant kickoff webinars for the Retail Pathways Initiative. And we're delighted to have multiple representatives from our 4 colleges in the grant, Broward, Durham Tech, Tallahassee, and Umpqua. We wanted to welcome you all. And the goal of this webinar is really to provide more information on the technical assistance and support that you will be receiving through this initiative. So we're going to clarify the roles that the Retail Pathways support team will provide and start building those relationships between the Retail Pathways support team and the colleges by having them introduce themselves, everyone on their Retail Pathways support team, and how they will be working with you at the college. And we definitely want to note that everyone's, all the attendees are currently muted, but please feel free to, as Destiny mentioned, raise your hand or ask questions in the chat box, and we'll be sure to address those as they come up. So in our agenda for today, we'll start by talking briefly about each of the groups that comprise the Retail Pathways support team. The Achieving the Dream staff, our Pathways expert, Donna Dare, our cross-college data coach, Trudy Burrs, and our evaluation team. Then we'll speak briefly about the role that the ATD leadership and data coaches will be playing in supporting this initiative, as well as some of the immediate next steps that we'll be engaging in. And there'll be time for questions and discussion at the end, but again, I encourage you, if you have questions along the way, to feel free and send those to us through the chat or question function. As I mentioned, my name is Megan Ireland, and I've communicated a lot with many of you already, either through our first webinar or through our individual phone calls. And I know we have our individual call with Broward tomorrow, so I will look forward to talking with you all then. I wanted to note the other Achieving the Dream staff who you will be getting to know and who will be supporting this project. The first is Meredith Hatch, who is Senior Associate Director for Workforce and Academic Alignment. Cindy Linhart is our Vice President for Community College Relations, and Destiny Mitchell is provides our program and policy support. There's several ways that the Achieving the Dream staff will be supporting each college and supporting the overall Retail Pathways initiative. First, we are the primary point of contact for anything related to the initiative, and we encourage you to reach out to us with any questions you have along the way. We also provide the support for the Retail Pathways support team by coordinating the work they do and guiding and identifying promising practices that emerge from the work that will be happening at each of the colleges. We also provide the logistical support, including coordinating site visits and travel reimbursement. We also support the information sharing and peer learning across the colleges, so we'll be conducting regular virtual webinars with each of the colleges, and those will be similar to the kickoff webinars we've had, and then the next one that we are hoping to hold will be in August, that will focus on the findings from the online survey that we've conducted of the network that discusses the retail pathways and the state of what's happening with retail pathways in the network. We're excited to report that that survey had over 130 responses, so a very high response rate. So we're excited to share those findings with you in August. Additionally, we'll be monitoring and documenting the overall grant process, which includes writing compliance reports to our funder, the Walmart Foundation. We'll also convene the peer learning event at Dream 2016, which you all will be attending. I'm going to turn it over now to Donna Dare, who's the Pathways expert, who will provide a brief bio for herself as well as discuss the roles and responsibilities of her as the Pathways expert.
Greetings, everyone. It's really a special pleasure for me to join you today in this webinar. I retired at the end of the day yesterday as the Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs at St. Louis Community College after 7 years in that role and 30 years in higher ed. So it's very exciting to me to be able to transition from that structured work as a college administrator and to be able to focus on this work around which I've had some real lifelong passion. As you'll see from the screen, my PhD in education is from University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. My other degrees are in English, and that was my primary teaching discipline in my early career, but my more recent teaching experience has been in higher ed. My interest in pathways is really both professional and personal. Like many of our community college students, I was one of those who didn't make it through college during my first journey. And a good deal of my passion for the pathways work comes from my real commitment and belief that clear pathways would have made a huge difference for me as a first-generation college student many, many years ago. I believe that's still true, and that Pathways provides a lighted pathway into the future for community colleges. So I've been involved in Pathways professionally in a variety of venues over my 30-year career, starting in the early 90s, and engaging in efforts like Tech Prep and School to Work that were all about pathways and alignment and student aspirations. One of the highlights of my career was working for what was then the National Center for Research and Vocational Education that was housed at, the project was housed at the University of Illinois as part of Dr. Bragg's team of researchers and looking at secondary to post-secondary transition programs and pathways. I also worked several years for a not-for-profit agency designing and developing a variety of school business partnerships and engaging business leaders in program development. Having worked in administrative roles in community colleges for these past 15 years, I've also been involved directly in the development and implementation of both credit and non-credit pathways. 2 years ago, I had a really wonderful opportunity at the invitation of Dr. Kay McClinney to co-author a trilogy of articles about academic pathways that was published in the Community College Journal. We worked together to express a shared vision that she and I both have about how pathways can help community colleges better address student success and structure the work of the future for community colleges. I continue to have a desire to work with colleges who are trying to work toward using pathways as a framework for student success. In terms of our particular work on this Retail Pathways project, it's certainly my responsibility as your Retail Pathways expert to support our 4 colleges in developing and improving on your current configuration of your retail pathway. All the colleges have some credentialed program that as a participant in this grant-funded project you want to improve upon. So we as a team are going to be working with you over the next year and a half to help you meet the expectations of the grant, but also, I think more importantly, to align the Retail Pathways work with your overall effort as an Achieving the Dream college that's focused on student success. In terms of logistics, we as a team have anticipated how we can stage our efforts over the period of the grant in helping you reach your goals as one of the 4 schools involved in this project. The technical assistance will include a site visit from Trudy and me early this fall that, from my standpoint as your Pathways expert, gives me an opportunity to work with you on the content, structure, and delivery of your retail pathway. The site visit will allow me to provide technical assistance to improve on that pathway design and delivery, but also to look more holistically at the retail pathway, students' entry into and exit from that pathway, and how all of that looks for your college. I'll be working with you to ensure that you have a work plan that's realistic for the scope of the grant and will enable you to focus on specific improvements in the overall pathway design that you all want to make. And then we as your retail pathway support team will be able to work together to help you validate your successes, tell your story, hopefully be able to share valuable information that will benefit you and other institutions in developing the retail pathway, as well as prepare for other pathways. As part of that assistance, we'll conduct any needed follow-through virtual and in-person site visits as the grant allows. When I became an administrator a number of years ago, I did so on the basis of 2 premises. One, I'd make it my primary job to ensure the quality and integrity of the learning experience of students. And 2, I would assume it's my job to see to it that the people I work with have the capacity and the resources and the support to do their jobs. So as your Retail Pathways expert, I'm here to do just that, and I very much look forward to working with you on this project.
Great. Thanks so much, Donna. We're really excited about the expertise and experience that you're going to bring to this project, and we want to publicly congratulate you again on your retirement just yesterday, and we're thrilled that even though you're retiring, we're putting you right to work, and we're going to benefit from that. So thank you again.
Looking forward to it.
I'm now going to turn it over to Trudy Burrs, who's the cross-college data coach for our project. Trudy?
Thank you. And I, like Donna, am very excited to be involved in this project. As the cross-college data coach, I'm actually in a new role. I don't think ATD has ever had a person in this role, and so I look forward to collaborating with all of you as we work together on making this particular project a success and also test out how ATD can provide support to colleges, not just in this grant, but in subsequent grants related to pathways or other topics. I am an ATD data coach. I've been with the initiative since its second year. I've coached 12 colleges and now the 4 of you in the Retail Pathways project. Until Halloween 2013, I was the Director of Institutional Research Curriculum and Planning at Oakton College, which is just outside of Chicago. Since leaving the college, I have done consulting, ATD coaching. I teach at the University of Maryland University College's doctoral program in Community College Management and Policy, and I do some professional writing. You can see my education listed there. We promise that this is not intended to be a University of Illinois domination, but it's just coincidental, I think, that Donna, Deb, and I are all associated in some way with the University of Illinois. As you will also see from the list of my education and my degrees, I've never actually taken an education course. But if you ask me today what my discipline is, I will tell you that it is higher education with a specialization in community colleges. I want to go back for a minute to the middle term in that title that I had at Oakton, Institutional Research Curriculum and Planning. While it's very common to see IR linked with planning, it's far less common to see a role in curriculum also built into the office. But in my role at Oakton, I was the person who helped work with faculty and staff to develop new curricula, to look at the evidence indicating the curriculum was needed, and that included job availability if the curriculum was in the career and technical education area. I worked with four-year institutions related to articulation and transfer of courses, and with high schools as we did dual credit and looked to see how we could align high school and college courses so the students could move seamlessly through a pathway, though we didn't necessarily use the term pathway at that time, and where they would gain credits and not have to repeat their courses as they moved from high school to the community college to the four-year institution. So although I'm not the retail pathways or the pathways expert, I do have experience in working with curricula and pathways. My role as the cross-college data coach really falls into three general areas. First of all, I'll be working with you to design ways that you can collect and you can document the data that you are collecting regarding the Retail Pathways project. I'll be talking with you about how you might adapt your data systems and build data capacity. There will be variables that you are going to be asked to collect, or we'll talk about your collecting in this project, that are usually not built into a standard student information management system. So we'll have to think creatively about how you might be able to gather and compile and store those data. And in doing this work, I'll be working closely with Bragg and Associates to ensure that the work that we all do together is overlapping and synergistic, and that you're not asked to do separate kinds of data collection work. I'll also be working closely with Donna. We'll be using the Guide to Implementation, which we're going to talk about a little later today. It's basically a document intended to help all of you develop the more systematic and detailed work plan to put this project into effect. I'll be providing technical assistance regarding both pathways content and the wraparound services that you'll all be providing to your colleges, and conducting site visits in partnership with Donna. And I will be coordinating and communicating closely with Bragg and Associates, the third-party evaluator, with your ATD leadership and data coaches, all of whom I know through our work together over the last years in coaching colleges, and with the ATD support staff. I want to make one additional comment regarding data, because I do have a special focus on data, but I also want to emphasize that data are important for this project, but that's not the purpose of the project. The purpose of the project is not just to collect data, but it's to develop curricula for certificates and ultimately degrees, appropriate wraparound services for students that are delivered to them in a way that helps them complete not only the certificate, the short-term certificate, but think ahead to completing associate degrees, to transfer, and to be successful in their jobs. And I think we all recognize that data will help determine the efficiency, the effectiveness of the project, and whether you are meeting your goals for the project, but they're not the same thing as delivering those important courses, curricula, and services to students.
Great, thank you, Trudy. We're really grateful for the extensive experience that you have as a data coach, and you know the Achieving the Dream Network and coach as well. So we're thrilled that you'll be spearheading this new type of role for this grant. So thank you. I'm now going to turn it over to Bragg and Associates, to Deb Bragg, who is the third-party evaluator for this project.
Well, thank you, Megan, and let me also just I think we sound a little bit like a broken record, but we are genuinely very excited to be part of this project, and we're grateful to you all at ATD and very excited to be working with Donna and Trudy, who we've known actually for quite a while, and I think we're going to be a really great team to support all the good work that's going to go on to implement these pathway programs. I'm Deborah Bragg. I'm the president of a small consulting firm called Bragg and Associates. We do evaluation and applied research in the community college context and have a number of projects under our belt that are in the pathways domain. I'm also a professor at the University of Illinois and the founding director of a research office there at the University of Illinois. Our office is one of the largest in the United States, and we have a 25-year track record of conducting research, and hopefully some of you may have heard of our work. I, like Donna, am looking forward to retirement at the end of July. So I too will be joining the ranks of those who are able to kind of do this kind of work because we want to do it, and it really is part of our passion to improve education for all students. I'm joined in this work with John Cosgrove and Maggie Cosgrove, who also have a small consulting firm called Cosgrove and Associates. John and Maggie are located in the St. Louis, Missouri area, and I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves in just a minute. I guess I'd like to also share a little bit about our experience and to echo and support what Trudy has said about the purpose of data collection and evaluation is to support the good work that you intend to do on behalf of your students. Our interest in evaluation is really an interest in improving programs and opportunities for students to move through an educational experience and into employment, and not simply to collect data for the sake of collecting data. So you have a team that is very committed to exactly what Trudy said about the purpose of the evaluation. We are an experienced team. We have conducted evaluation with many career pathways projects, especially in the context recently of the TACT grants, which some of you may be part of. John, Maggie, and I are the third-party evaluators for 7 TACT grants, and therefore have become extremely familiar with the Department of Labor and the requirements to report and document students' movement into employment, which is a very, very important part of this Retail Pathway grant. I am also the leader of multi-foundation funded initiative called the Transformative Change Initiative that's funded by the Gates Foundation, the Lumina Foundation, and the Joyce Foundation. This is a national project that capitalizes on TAC to identify innovations in the career pathways sector, and a part of that is an evaluation collaborative. I only mention that because a part of this grant is intended to identify promising practices and innovations that emerge in the 4 colleges that you all represent. And I want to assure you that our work in this area is really grounded in a national perspective where we're looking at similar kinds of programs, including the retail sector where we have some experience. I've been the lead evaluator on several major national career pathway initiatives, including Breaking Through, Shifting Gears, and multiple National Science Foundation grants, as is the Cosgrove and Associates group. So I'm going to let John and Maggie introduce themselves because I think it's important for you to hear from all our team members.
Thank you, Deb. This is Maggie Cosgrove. John and I are also very excited to be part of this project and the evaluation team. And along with Deb, our goal is to help us all learn together as we progress down this pathway. John and I set off together on our own path and began our firm about 4 years ago. And our goal was to focus on research and evaluation efforts as colleges transform themselves in the community college world and environment. Since then, we've been conducting research and evaluation with colleges, as Deb mentioned, as they work their way to develop programs. And we are eager to meet you all, to work with you, and to learn about your programs. Thank you.
Well, and I'm John Cosgrove, and so as the last to speak here, I would just like to say that I feel like kind of just I'm a data geek on this team, I guess. I mean, I think what you have here, folks, is an all-star kind of team of folks who have an awful lot of experience on the curriculum side, on the planning side, and on the research evaluation side. So, I mean, I'm thrilled to be a part of the project also, and I mean, look forward to you know, kind of walking this path all together and I mean, telling your evaluation story at the end of the process.
Great. So just to speak about the evaluation a little bit more, although not in great detail yet, because we're still, some of our ideas are still evolving as we hear more from you. But this is an evaluation that has an implementation component as well as an impact and outcomes evaluation component. And those elements are probably somewhat familiar to you, but they'll be really distinct and important in our work. We will be doing that kind of evaluation so we can speak to the effectiveness of your projects, how they're impacting student outcomes in both education and employment, you know, as you aspire for your programs to impact students. So we'll ground our work in what it is you want to accomplish and see if that is happening. As we mentioned, we'll also be highlighting promising programs and practices, and that will be a joint activity with the cross-college data coach and with the retail pathways expert, with Donna and Trudy, as well as the ATD coaches, as we really try to capture, as John said, your story of what is evolving under this grant. Ultimately, as the evaluation team, we will present a career pathways framework that emerges. So sort of those common elements that emerge in the retail pathway curriculum domain, you know, what does that look like? So then to speak in the next slide to roles and responsibilities. Like the others on the project, we have given this some some thought, and again, it's still emerging for us, but we will very soon be able to get you some of the things I'm talking about here. So we will develop and customize evaluation tools and processes for this project. They will be aligned with the guide to implementation, which Trudy mentioned to you. So we're working together as a team to ensure that what we provide you is consistent and supports what you want to do. Our data collection will be both qualitative and quantitative, and we will be assessing the project from the beginning to the end. So it won't be an evaluation that just happens at the end, but is really intended to support your accomplishing your goals from the beginning. The evaluation team will conduct 2 site visits. We will be the first team to visit you, so our visit will come in September or early October, with the cross-college data coaches visiting you probably about a month or so later to follow up on some of the things that we've learned as the evaluation team in terms of kind of a baseline assessment of where you're starting with your project. Our goal will be to be very open and honest with our evaluation results. We always intend and will share with you as our primary colleagues what we learn on our site visits or what we learn through any of our data collection. And then those kinds of results, once they've been vetted with you, will be included in interim and summative reports that will be both written and oral. Like you, we will be presenting results of this project in various venues, including the DREAM conference and probably other places. And that will include documenting and helping ATD to disseminate the Retail Career Pathways framework that emerges. We very much intend to coordinate our work with the ATD leadership and staff, with others who are providing support, and as well disseminating what we're learning to other ATD colleges and the ATD network and potentially beyond. I'm not going to ask John Cosgrove to share information about the next slide, which just kind of gets your feet a little bit wet in terms of where we're headed with the evaluation.
Okay, so this slide is mainly because I wanted a slide like with all kinds of colors in it, right? So, I do think that as we think about kind of evaluation and evaluation questions and trying to tell the evaluation story, in college environments, there tends to be tons of data. Like I think, for the most part, colleges do a fine job of the collection of data, but it often tends to, kind of live in different places. It isn't always as nicely aligned as all of us, like in the research and evaluation field, would like it to be. And if you've had any experience in the data world, that can be kind of a frustrating piece because there are questions that are important, but because the data tend to live in different places, it's a little bit more of a challenge to actually answer those. So as part of the evaluation process, it's our intent to to examine these different buckets of information and partner with the colleges to kind of align and merge the various data sources into kind of a common file that is going to allow us to actually track outcomes along the way and actually track outcomes at the end of the project, so you can tell a much more of a a deeper kind of evaluation story on the impact of the grant.
Thanks, John. I think our team has concluded its report then, Mayan.
Great. Thanks so much. We're really thrilled to have Bragg and Associates and Cosgrove and Associates working with us on this project to support the work that's being done and help tell the story about what we're going to learn from this initiative. So thank you all. I also wanted to take a minute to talk briefly about the role of the leadership and data coaches. So in addition to this wonderful Retail Pathway support team, colleges will also be receiving assistance from your ATD leadership and data coaches. And they'll work to provide contextual information and advice to the Retail Pathway support team. And they'll also assist each college in connecting the Retail Pathway efforts to the overarching student success goals and other institutional pathways work that you all are engaging in. So your Achieving the Dreams data and leadership coaches will conduct 2 site visits, one in the fall and one in the spring. And part of each of those visits will be used to assist with the implementation of this project. So as you recall, through this grant, you are receiving one additional site visit from your Achieving the Dream leadership and data coaches. Additionally, they will participate with you all in the convening at Dream 2016. So as we think about next steps, the immediate next steps, the first is that you probably have heard several times mentioned the draft guide to implementation, which if you had registered as of yesterday, I sent you ahead of the call. And if you registered this morning, I will be sure to resend that to everyone who is participating this afternoon. And this is the draft guide to implementation that the Retail Pathway Support Team has created and are seeking feedback from you by July 7th. So as you look at this guide and the ways that you might be using it on your campus, we'd like to hear feedback from you, and then the Retail Pathway Support Team will be finalizing this guide. And you'll receive a revised version in mid-July, which will then be followed by individual calls with Donna and Trudy to talk about how best to use this guide to implementation. Additionally, we're wanting to start scheduling site visits. So the evaluation team, as you heard, will be the first team to visit in September or early October. Donna and Trudy, our Pathways expert and cross-college data coach, will visit 1 month after your evaluation team or thereabouts. And then additionally, as I mentioned, your Achieving the Dream coaches will visit once in the fall and once in the spring. So one of the other immediate next steps would be for the one point person from your college to send dates that you know right now absolutely do not work for a fall site visits, for those 2 fall site visits. And we'll use those to give us at least a starting point as we try to align everyone's schedules. Additionally, we expect that you all will continue the summer planning and implementation work that you outlined in your proposals. And from our individual calls that we've had with each of the colleges, you know, we've learned that you're well on your way with that, so that's very exciting. That concludes the prepared material that we wanted to go over, but we want to open it up for questions. And I'll first note that, you know, the focus of this webinar was really on clarifying the roles and responsibilities and also talking about some of the next steps and introducing the Retail Pathway Support Team. So, you know, particularly wanting to open this up right now to questions specifically related to those roles and responsibilities, to logistics or site visits, or if you've already been looking at that draft to the guide to implementation. And we did have one question come in from Renee that was about the type of qualitative evaluation data, and that's slightly outside the scope of this webinar. I know that Bragg and Associates will have more information about the evaluation, but Deb, did you have anything you initially wanted to say in regards to qualitative data?
Sure. Well, our primary source for qualitative data will be the individual and group interviews and the observations that we do when we do our 2 site visits. We may, in addition to that, we will be monitoring the quarterly reports that are required for the grant, and we may supplement those reports with additional information so that everyone has a chance really to tell their story about how things are really working and how things are evolving. I think until we see, though, the full guide to implementation and have a meeting of our team, which is scheduled next week, that will be an opportunity, I think, for all of us to talk about whether any additional qualitative data will be needed. But those are the primary ways that we'll collect the qualitative data, is through our site visits. And also, I would also say that the coaching aspect to this grant is really a critical piece, and our communications on an ongoing basis of our support team, that will provide additional qualitative data on how the projects are unfolding. I'd be happy to answer any other questions about that if someone has a specific question about whether any type of qualitative data or any particular method is anticipated that I haven't addressed.
And feel free to, let's see, I'm going to unmute Renee. She has a follow-up question. Hold on one second,
Okay.
Renee. Okay, Renee?
It's I'm actually here with Renee. This is Fortin, and the question
Okay, great.
I just wanted to know in regards to the qualitative data, will you guys be requesting any students or participants of the grant to be interviewed during the site visits, or no?
Absolutely. The students and graduates are one of our most important stakeholders. So yes, we will be conducting interviews with them.
Okay, thank you.
In fact, this is a good opportunity just to make clear that all of our data collection will be done on the student level. So when John was talking about the participant enrollment, those are not aggregate. Those are actual student level analysis. So the student level piece is critical to our meeting the requirements of the sponsor and of our ability to address the questions of effectiveness.
Great, thank you. And if there are other questions, again, feel free to raise your hand and we can come to you. We've also had a question come in via the chat from Melissa asking about when the grant announcement will be made. And we are in the process right now of finalizing with the communications firm that we are contracting with. I think we mentioned this on the first webinar, and I promise that we're getting closer. So they're developing a communications plan, and one of the initial pieces that they are creating for us are packets for each of the colleges in terms of releasing information about the grant and then doing our own kind of national grant announcement. So yeah, we definitely will hope to have that happening within the next week or two. Any other questions? I haven't seen any come in yet. Besides those, I'll give it a minute in case someone is thinking of it or composing it. Melissa, I'm going to unmute you if you would like to share your follow-up. Oh, Melissa, I see your hands raised, but it looks like that your audio pin was not entered, so we're not able to hear from you. If you want to type your question, follow up, or you can dial back in and use the pin. Okay, slides. Great. Thanks, Melissa. So Melissa's wondering if the slides will be available later. Yes, we will send both these PowerPoint slides as well as a recording of this webinar, which I hope you'll feel free to send and share with other members of your team that might not have been able to join today. Any other questions? So as always, feel free to contact me or Meredith directly if you have other questions. The things that will be coming to your inbox shortly are that draft guide to implementation. I'm going to resend that along with the slides from this presentation and the recording. And I don't see any other questions out there. So with that, we will close out the webinar and look forward to working with you all on the next steps. Thanks to everyone for joining, and thanks to our panelists for coming and sharing about your roles on this project.
Thank you, Meehan.
Thank you.
Great. Take care. Oh, let's see. Stephen, if you're still there, we will follow up with you. Sorry, I just saw this came in.